He didn't just refuse her handshake. He laughed in a marble-floor corporate lobby filled with cameras, executives, and silent employees. His hand remained buried in his pocket as she stood there, arm extended, poised, dignified. Then he said it. He didn't touch staff. The words echoed louder than the laughter that followed. Phones lifted, smirks spread, someone whispered, someone recorded, and a black woman standing in front of him, tailored, navy suit, leather briefcase resting against her hip, slowly lowered her hand without a word. He thought she was beneath him. He thought she worked for him. He thought wrong, because within 72 hours, $3 billion of his assets would be frozen, his board would turn against him, and the empire he built on arrogance would begin collapsing from the inside out. And the woman he humiliated, she wasn't staff, she was the reason his company still existed. Before this story continues, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Black Legacy. Your support helps bring these powerful stories to light. The building was called Meridian Tower, 42 floors of polished glass and generational wealth. It housed one of the most aggressive private equity firms in the country, Caldwell and Rowe Capital. At the top of that firm stood Daniel Rowe, 48 years old, Ivy League polished, media celebrated. Financial magazines labeled him a visionary. He liked the word conqueror better. Daniel didn't inherit his wealth, he built it. Or at least that was a story repeated on podcasts and keynote stages. What was rarely mentioned was who stabilized his firm during its near collapse 8 years earlier. A silent partner, a strategic rescuer, an institutional investor whose identity had been kept deliberately quiet. That investor was represented by a holding group known simply as Apex Sovereign Trust, and at 9 a.m. sharp on a Tuesday morning, Apex sent its senior asset controller to conduct an unannounced compliance review. Her name was Naomi Carter. Naomi did not announce power when she walked into rooms, she wore it quietly. Her navy blazer was structured but simple. Her hair was sleek, straight, falling past her shoulders, her posture unshakable. She had grown up understanding rooms like this, rooms where she was underestimated before she ever spoke, rooms where eyes calculated her before credentials were checked. She had learned early that power rarely announced itself loudly, it moved with patience. Naomi wasn't just any executive. She was a Harvard-educated financial attorney who specialized in sovereign wealth oversight. Her role wasn't advisory, it was enforcement. Apex Sovereign Trust controlled 38% of Caldwell and Rowe Capital's liquidity portfolio. Without Apex's backing, Daniel's leverage-heavy acquisitions would unravel. But Daniel didn't recognize her. When Naomi entered the lobby, the receptionist glanced at her briefcase, then at her skin, then at the employees trailing behind Daniel. Assumptions formed quickly. Staff, consultant, mid-level auditor. She was directed to wait, and then Daniel arrived, flanked by junior executives, laughing about a golf deal. He saw her standing near the reception desk, calm, composed, watching. She stepped forward, extended her hand, professional, confident, and that was a moment frozen in the thumbnail. The red circle around her steady hand, his smirk wide, head tilted back in dismissal. I don't touch staff. He didn't even look at her badge, didn't ask her name. He assumed. The room shifted. Several employees suppressed smiles. One young analyst lifted her phone subtly, recording. Naomi lowered her hand slowly. Her expression did not crack, but something in her eyes changed. Not hurt, not anger, calculation, because Daniel Rowe had just insulted the representative of the single largest capital guarantor his company had, and he had done it publicly. Naomi glanced once at the company logo behind the reception desk, Caldwell and Rowe Capital, then she turned toward Daniel and asked one calm question, not loudly, not emotionally, just clearly enough for everyone to hear. Is the executive board assembled? The laughter stopped. Daniel frowned slightly, irritation flickering across his face. He didn't like being redirected, but he waved dismissively toward the elevators. Conference room, 15th floor. He still thought she was there to present slides, still thought he controlled the room. What he didn't realize was that she controlled the lifeline of his company, and before the day ended, that truth would begin surfacing. The 15th floor conference room was filled within 10 minutes. Board members arrived one by one, some confused, others irritated by the suddenness of the call. Daniel sat at the head of the table, fingers tapping lightly against polished mahogany. He had already decided that this was a routine audit presentation. Maybe Apex was adjusting compliance protocols. Maybe this woman was here to deliver procedural updates. He was not worried. His company had survived market crashes, regulatory probes, and aggressive competitor takeovers. Caldwell and Rowe Capital was built on calculated risk and relentless expansion. A woman like Naomi Carter was a formality, not a threat. The door closed quietly as she entered. She placed her briefcase on the table without asking permission. Then she removed a single document, not a presentation file, not a report stack, just one printed notice. She slid it across the table toward Daniel. Effective immediately, Naomi said, her voice carrying the quiet precision of someone accustomed to courtroom silence. Apex Sovereign Trust is initiating emergency asset control measures over selected Caldwell and Rowe liquidity channels. The room became still. Daniel blinked once. Then he laughed. Not loudly, not nervously, confidently. Emergency control. On what grounds? Naomi did not answer immediately. She waited because she understood that power is often revealed not in what is said first, but in what is allowed to echo after silence. Then she spoke.